Hello everyone and welcome back to another single button guide. It's been a long time since I've made a single button guide. You know, there's been a lot of things in life, like traveling and business trips and such on. But now I'm back and I'm ready to finish the last two single button guides that I still have to do. So today we're going to be talking about the Affliction Warlock. As usually, we're going to go through the intro, the stats, the talents, and the rotation. It's just going to be a short one. I think for the rest of this expansion here, we're just going to do the short ones, and then we're going to save the longer versions for the next expansion coming soon. Tons of new content to talk about. But let's get to it. So, let's talk about the stats. First of all, I always recommend getting the highest intellect. What I mean by that is the item level. So, for example, what I mean is, if you look at my boots, you can see they are the upgrade level called Adventure. So in the right side, you can see it says Explore, Adventure, Veteran, Champion, Hero, Myth. Whenever I get an item and it's one of the higher upgrade levels, I would always go with that, no matter the secondary stats. We don't look at the secondary stats if the item I'm getting, the new one, has a higher. So for example, if these Adventure boots, if I found another item that was Explore, I would never touch it because it's going down, like it's going the wrong way in what we call the upgrade levels. But if I got a Veteran, Champion, Hero, Myth, I wouldn't even look at the secondary stats. I would just take it instantly. But if you then get an item that has the same upgrade level, that's when we're gonna look at the secondary stats, like up here. So first of all, we first have Critical Strike, Mastery, Haste, and Versatility. Let me explain very quickly why. So Critical Strike is really great for Affliction Warlocks because Affliction Warlocks is going to have so much damage over time on the target. So every single time your debuffs, your curses are damaging over time, they have a chance to crit. So having more crit just enables all these critical, like all these debuffs, to just randomly keep critting, which is insane. And we got so many talents in here, which, like, you know, we got like so many talents in here. For example, this one here called Demonic Tactics is just giving you more crit, like from both sources, and just like more crit, which is nice. We also have this one here, which increases your debuffs to crit. In the raid build, we also use this one here, where it also increases the crit damage. But it's just like a super great, like, you know, crit just really works with Affliction Warlock because it just makes all your random debuff damage to just like explode, which is nice. Next we have Mastery. Mastery is also really nice because what Mastery does is basically increasing our dot damage. Increased damage done by Malefic Rapture, Agony, Wither, Wildtain, Soul Rod, Unstable Affliction, and Seed of Corruption. It increases damage of a lot of important spells, which is super nice. So basically, crit makes all the debuffs or spells, like, you know, deal double damage, higher chance of, and also Mastery increase the damage of some of your debuffs and some of the spells we're going to be spamming. You know, just a big, nice combination. Then we have Haste. Haste is basically allowing you to cast spells faster and also cast more often spells, because default in the game, you have a glow, like every time you use a spell, you can see every time I use a spell, like it could be anything. This one here, well, actually, bad example. But if I use, for example, this one here, you can see all the spells, they turn around when you use a spell. Basically, that's called a global cooldown. The more haste you have, the faster it actually gets. The more spells you can cast out, you know, faster with, for example, instant spells. When you're using normal rotation, you have 1.5 global cooldown. When you're using the single button assistant, like this one here, it's on 1.8 seconds, because we're getting a bit punished when using this button here. So basically, the more haste we have, it reduces the global cooldown, which helps the single button system. It also helps the debuffs to attack like faster, so they will like dot even faster. And it also increases the cast time on like spells where we actually have to cast like Shadow Ball. But it's so, as you can probably hear, it's a really good secondary stat, but sadly it's still behind crit and still behind mastery. So I still recommend going first to crit, then mastery, then haste, and then we have versatility, which is a fine spell. You know, versatility basically increases the damage. So if you have 10% versatility, you deal 10% increased damage, and also 10% more healing, and you will take half of what you have in versatility also as damage. You know, you will take less damage. So if I have 10% versatility, I will take 5% less damage, which is nice. I mean, if you do a lot of solo content like Delves and you don't really want to play with anyone else and just yourself, then versatility is a nice stat because, you know, it makes you stronger for content. So basically that's the stats. Let's move on. So for the talents in both the raid build and the dungeon build, we are using Hellcaller. Hellcaller is just at the moment for Affliction, the meta, so you don't really want to use Soul Harvester. I mean, it's a fun one, but yeah, just keep away from it as it is right now. So I would recommend Hellcaller for both the dungeon build and the raid build. So on my Discord server, you will be seeing that there's two builds you can import into your game. There's the dungeon build and there's the raid build. Basically, the dungeon build is the one you're looking at right now, where we have utilities, we have the damage we deal, and the Hellcaller in the middle. Basically, this one here is the one you should be using for any content in the game except raids. This talent here, as you can see, if I switch to the raid one, it changes very, 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 very little things. It removes the stun and takes less damage from like moving, running with what is it called, burning rush. This one here, burning rush here. And also it takes free spells over here. It does so that your spells have like a bigger crit damage. It also does so that your what is it called? Enemies are damaged by Phantom Singularity takes 10% increased damage from Restoration, and it changes Wild Taint to Phantom Singularity. That's because those spells will help you deal more damage to raid bosses. Where the setup we have right now with Call of the Week, Cunning Cruelty, and Wild Taint is actually dealing more damage in an AoE place, you know, when there's more mobs there. So the only small, like the dungeon and raid build is such a little difference, but it still gives you just that 10-20% more damage you really want. So I mean, it's nice. But again, I have both the builds on my Discord. You can find it in the room called Affliction Warlock. But this is basically the setup we use with the Hellcaller. And we have the dungeon build and the raid build. Very simple talents. It's straight out the pocket. And when I go to the rotation part now and talk about that, it will all make sense. When it comes to rotation, single button assistant has a like if you're playing against someone who is doing his rotation perfectly, it will be about 11% lower than, you know, versus someone who does it perfectly. If you play against someone who, you know, doesn't play Affliction probably and uses it wrong, I mean, you probably might be doing even more damage than that player. But against someone who plays Affliction Warlock perfectly, it's about 11% less damage than someone like that. There's just like one very important thing you have to do when you play Affliction Warlock. Like, it's so insane important. We have this cooldown here called Summon Darkglare, and that's the one you need to use in the right moment. Basically, it's going to extend all your dots on the target, all the damage over time abilities by 8 seconds, so they all get 8 seconds refreshed. Also, it's going to shoot out a laser beam for 20 seconds, dealing 190k damage. But the more damage over time ability you have on the target, it will deal 45% more damage for each of those debuffs, which is insane. So basically, before you summon Darkglare, you need to have casted Agony on the target, Wild Taint on the target, Soul Rot on the target, Unstable Affliction on the target, and Wither on the target. So basically, you need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Isn't that 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 damage over time abilities that needs to be on the target before you use Summon Darkglare. Then all these 5 ones are going to be extended by 8 seconds, and you're going to be basically dealing what is that? Like, that has to be like 45, like 225% more damage on the Summon Darkglare, because it says increase 45 of every damage over time effect you have. So yeah, basically, it's going to be 190, 225% more. Like, that's just like insane how much damage that's going to deal. So let me show you how you do. Basically, you need to wait for all those 5 debuffs are going to be up. So what I usually do is that Wild Taint, the first ability is going to be using, is only for 10 seconds. Usually when there's 2 seconds back on it, it's when all the debuffs are on. So look at my debuffs up here, because then you will see. So now we have, okay, now it's going to use Wild Taint and Agony. So now we have 2, now we have 3. So basically we got 3 damage over time, now we have 4, and now we have 5. Then we use Darkglare, boom. That was just about time. Like, my Wild Taint was just about to go off, but we were waiting for it to use Soul Rot, because now we have Agony, Unstable Affliction, Soul Rot, Wild Taint, and Wither. So that was my 5 damage over time abilities. So now, of course, my pet here, my Darkglare, was dealing 225% more damage, plus all these debuffs got extended by 8 seconds, which is insane because this damage over time ability here is only on it for 10 seconds, but because we use Darkglare, it actually was on for, 18 seconds, which is really good. So you could say the main priority of your damage rotation here is to use 1-1-1-1, of course, just single button assistant, until you have all 5 damage over time abilities on. And again, you can easily track it by looking at your cooldowns, or whenever you see Wild Taint is about to, whenever Wild Taint is about to go off, like when it has 1 second left, then you should use Darkglare. So I mean, a good thumb rule to make it easier for yourself is just use Summon Darkglare when Wild Taint has like 1 or 2 seconds back, because then it should 100% have both Soul Rod, Wild Taint on, Agony, Unstable Affliction, and also Wither. I mean, Wither is going to be forever because this one here has this talent here does, so it's on it forever, so don't worry about that one. But I'm going to demonstrate it one more time. So again, I'm going to be spamming 1 until I have all my 5 debuffs on, and then I'm going to be using Summon Darkglare. And usually we can always do it 1 or 2 seconds before Wild Taint is, going to go off. So are you ready? We're going to be testing it. We're going to wait 5 more seconds till Summon Darkglare is ready, and then we're going to test the entire rotation again. Okay, now. So, now we have 3 debuffs now. We have 4 now. We just need Soul Rod, and there we go. Boom. Summon Darkglare. This one, of course, was a bit easier because it already had Wither on from the last, last rotation, because Wither is on for unlimited time. But again, I just waited for my 5 damage over time abilities to come, and then I use Summon Darkglare. And if you do that part of the rotation, then you will deal only 11% less damage than someone else who plays Affliction Warlock perfectly. And again, I mean, how often do you really meet someone who's perfect at their class? They get stressed, they get annoyed or something like that, and they screw up in their rotation, and then easily single button assistant can find them, if you know what I mean. That's why I find single button assistant kind of fun, because you can avoid mechanics and do stuff like that, but while still doing the right rotation, kinda. So that's the main rotation. Again, you're spamming 1 on your target, and it's the same for the raid phase. In the raid one, you just don't have Wild Taint, you have Phantom Singularity, but it's the same thing. You still need all the 5 debuffs, but instead of having Wild Taint on, you use Phantom instead. So you also wait for that one to come on. But then it's basically the same. So that's the rotation. Spam 1, use Summon Darkglare whenever you have like 5 debuffs out. Then we also have Drain Life. It's a great self-healing spell. You can see here that it heals like for a lot and deals a little damage. You can also combine it with a Soul Burn here, and then it will basically also give you like an Absorb Shield, which is pretty cool. Soul Burn is a spell you can use whenever you have like soul shards, and it will make Demonic Circle, Teleport, Demonic Gateway, Drain Life, Hellfernal, Hailstone be more efficient, which is quite cool. We also have this spell here called Curse of Satyr, which is it's a new spell we get from this talent tree here, Curse of Satyr. But basically what it does is it both casts, it reduces the time between attacks is increased by 20, and casting time increased by 30. So it's basically using 2 curses at the same time, Curse of Tongue and Curse of, which one is that? I think it's replacing the spell called, I can't remember what it's called, but it's two normal Warlock curses that it's basically replacing, which is quite nice. So instead of casting 2 different curses, you're now casting just 1. But it's the curse with the sword on. I'm pretty sure it replaces. Then of course we have Demonic Circle and Teleport. So you can do you can set up like a teleport. You can teleport to it. We also have Mortal Coil, which is one of your interrupt abilities. So imagine this one here was like casting a spell you don't want it to cast. You could technically cast Mortal Coil, and it would interrupt it, make it fear. But also this spell here heals you for 20% of your health, which is also very nice. So you can also save it just for like a self-healer. We of course also have Hellstones, so you can create Hellstones, which heals a lot. We have this talent down here, which makes it even stronger for yourself, which is quite nice. And you can use it as much as you want in combat, which is very nice. You don't have to wait like others to get out of combat. Then we also have Dark Pact. Dark Pact is really, really great, especially with this talent here, where Dark Pact heals you for 100k every 1 second while active. So now Dark Pact is a spell that sacrifices 20% of your health and then gives you a shield that is 200% of that, so basically like a 3.7 million shield. And then because of this talent here, it heals you for like a lot while it's actually on you. So it actually heals you back those 100%, like 20% very fast, and it heals you even more. So it's really, really nice. Then we also have Unending Resolve, which basically reduces all damage you take by 25%, makes you immune for silence, pushback, and interrupts. We also have Fell Domination. In case your pet died, you can use Fell Domination and very quickly summon your pet. By the way, now we're talking about pet. Single button assistant is forcing you to use either the Imp or Fell Hunter. So whenever you like want to try maybe Void Walker, it's very often gonna make you go back to one of the other pets. I really hope they're gonna change this, but it is what it is. We also have the spell lock. So basically when you use Fell Hunter, it has the spell lock ability you can drag down, which is interrupting. So if this one here was casting a spell, I could use my spell lock for my Fell Hunter, and it would actually interrupt it, which is very nice. It also has the spell called Devour Magic, which I actually haven't pulled down. But Devour Magic is like removing one magic effect. So like if it had a buff on or like had a shield, we could actually remove that with Devour Magic, which is also quite nice. Yeah. We also have Shadow Fury, which is basically an AoE stun. We only have this spell here in the dungeon build, not in the raid build, because it's not really needed in the raid build since you're not going to be stunning a lot of mobs in there. Then we also have Fear, great spell if you want to interrupt like a mob that was casting a spell, or if you have like a mob you don't want to fight while you're fighting 3 other mobs, then you could Fear one. We also have Curse of Exhaustion, which makes the mob run slower, but I mean, in most cases you would be using Curse of Satyr to like help the tank take less damage. We also have a Gateway in case you want to like use a gateway, so you can like use a gateway you can teleport through. We also have Soulstone. Soulstone have different use cases. You can either use it on someone ASAP, so when the target dies and for the next 15 minutes, that person can then resurrect themselves, like a shaman's totem, Ankh, or you can wait for someone actually dying, and then you can combat risk them while they are on the ground with it as well. Of course, the risk by that is that if you die as the first one, you won't be able to resurrect anyone, but if you use it on someone before the fight, you know, they can basically come back from that, even though if you're dead. Then, of course, create Healthstone. We also have Burning Rush, which makes you run very fast, but you take damage while you're running, so remember not to die. And then we also have create Soulwell, so of course you can create a Healthstone for everyone in your party, which is very nice. We also have Summon, so if you want to like summon someone, we can actually summon them to location. So yeah. So I guess that's basically everything. That was everything for Affliction Warlock. We went through the stats, a short intro, and the talents, and also the rotation. Again, I mean, the rotation is pretty straightforward. You just press 1. There's nothing like really big things you have to think about with this spec here. The only thing you really need to think about is using your Darkglare once you have your 5 damage over time abilities on, which is the most important thing. So yeah, thanks for watching. I appreciate you all for watching. In case you want to support the channel, feel free to like the video and subscribe, and it also helps the YouTube algorithm if you comment something in the comment section. You know, just write anything, like it's up to you. And if you want to support even further, feel free to become a YouTube member, and your name will be in the end of the video as well, and you get some small cool perks and some extra behind the scenes stuff. So yeah. Thanks for watching, and now we only need one single button assistant guide after this one here, which is the Subtlety Rogue, and then we're done with the entire series for this expansion. And then of course we have to redo them all for the next expansion. So I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.